Welcome back to What You Don't See, the podcast. We are here at the beautiful new Urban Living. I'm going to let Ingrid talk about how much she loves this place.
How beautiful are the paintings back here? And I didn't even know that you can also get wallpaper.
Yeah.
You can also order wallpaper. And did you guys know that they actually also have a gift store inside of New? So I was walking around and I saw a bunch of crystals. I don't know if you guys saw them. No. Lots and lots of pieces of natural crystals. Ooh. So I think I'm gonna walk around after this and go see what they have. Because they have a bunch of really cool things, especially for Mother's Day.
Oh yeah.
Gifts, etc.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful space, and we're very honored to have our podcast here. Today's episode is a heavy topic.
It's like part two.
It's kind of part two, right?
Okay,
it's like part two
it's the dark
of the dark side of what happens in, behind closed doors. So let's just talk about it. We're talking about sexual assault, sexual abuse, sextortion. It's called extortion, but you add sextortion, which is like, hey, if you don't pay me, I'm going to release your nudes, revenge porn, that sort of thing. And the reason why we want to talk about it is because we want to spread awareness and we want our viewers to be educated on what steps you can take if this happens to you. A lot of people watching have kids. Protect your children. There are predators, in every space that you didn't expect. Maybe at school, unfortunately. Maybe at church, unfortunately.
Maybe at home.
Talk to your children about what it means when somebody touches them in their private areas.
Yeah.
Have those conversations and let them know that it's not okay.
Give them that safe space.
And don't leave your children anywhere. Like just with
Not
anyone,
even with family.
just because you know them, just because you, have a past with them. Like never, never, never leave them alone with anybody that you maybe potentially trust. But if someone that you don't even know, like don't do it. Sleepovers were a big no in my in my family.
Sleepovers were a huge no.
Yeah, sleepovers happened at my home. My mom allowed
people to come over.
Anybody who wants to come in here, come over, stay over. My friends would stay for months. Like my mom was the cool mom.
Wow.
So yeah, she would never allow us to go anywhere. We would cry, we would bitch, we would make a scene. But she in the end, you grow up and you're like, man, I'm so glad, that she didn't, because certain friend had a brother or a cousin that lived there or this. You just
I'm very
never
careful
know.
about brothers. And you know what I mean? And like, who's going to be there? Who's there? How many are in their family?
Right.
What are, if you guys are going to go to the restroom, you go together. You go with your friends. Always go with two people at every place because you just don't want to be alone.
I had, there was a doctor. He was a doctor, PA, at a clinic when I was younger and I worked there. And he always took care of everybody's kids. And it was weird. Always. No. He always wanted to take my son. Magda, I'll watch him so you could go out. No, my mom always told me, I'll watch him, but you never leave him anywhere else, right? Just with me. Yeah. And if I can't, then you don't go out. So I never let my son go with them. Well, years later, comes out. And a lot of these nurses that were working there, they all wanted to go out. Yeah. Everybody would leave the office, the night clinic at 11 o'clock, and they would go to the bar. They all had the Tejano dance they wanted to go to.
This guy was like,
the babysitter.
It's okay.
Yes.
I would never, I'm not a mom, but if I was a mom, I would never leave my kids with a man. I don't know. Not to talk shit about men or anything, but it's just not in a women's nature to do that. I don't know.
They did. And a lot of these kids came forward years later. Very, horrible. They were teenagers when they all came forward. He did go to prison.
Oh, good.
I'm really proud of those kids coming forward.
Yeah.
It takes a lot.
It's really hard. Yeah.
A kid to want to say, this is what happened to me.
Yes, exactly. And they all came forward. And just the other day, my son and I were talking. He's like, Mom, remember? He brought up the doctor's name. And I was like, yes. And we talked about it. And he's like, Mom, he wanted to buy me a basketball court. And RJ was only 5. And he remembers. And I said, he wanted to take me to his house to see the basketball court because he was going to buy me one.
No.
And I never, ever let him. And later on, when all these kids came forward, they came to talk to me. Magda, your son needs to come forward. I said, well, hold on, my son never went with him. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. My son never, ever. And no, I asked RJ, I go, did I ever have a weak moment? He's like, Mom, I never remember seeing myself. So I thank God all the time for being brave or not being so desperate to go out to let my son just go with anybody.
Yeah.
And I feel like low-key you knew it wasn't like something right.
Well,
you
no,
know,
because
to
at that
do.
time my mom told me, you can't leave. If you want me to take care of him, you can't leave him with anybody else but me.
Yeah.
And I respected that. That was
Well, thank God you had that, because some people don't have it.
I know.
Right? And so that makes it hard. So when they get offers from people that they are trusting or people that they think are good people, because you don't know until you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, look at, some of the recent activities that have just happened. We were talking about the porn revenge, right?
Revenge porn.
That they were putting up pictures of people's nudes without their permission.
Yeah.
And the guy got arrested, that's what should happen, right?
I don't know
You're
if-
getting rid of the bully.
I don't know if y'all know, but revenge porn is illegal. It is fairly new law in the past 10, 15 years. People cannot share your nude photos without your consent.
right.
And you should report it to the police immediately if somebody is threatening to do that to you. There's currently...
Don't be bullied.
Yeah, don't be bullied.
don't be.
Don't be bullied to do whatever it is they tell you. Don't pay them. Don't, you know what I mean? Don't get back with them. Go to the police, take screenshots, get your evidence, and report it, because it's horrible. And just last night, I was reading an article how scammers are pretending to be girls and getting young boys to send them nude photos.
And then they threaten them.
And then they threaten them and say, if you don't pay me, I'm going to release this to everybody you know.
They're scamming young kids.
The young teenage boys.
Wow.
And that I mean, if you have strict parents, like, I mean, I'm putting myself in like their shoes. Like, if that were to happen to me back in the day,
Tell your parents.
I wouldn't tell my parents. I would
No.
be freaking out. Like, my nervous system would be like, all over the place. I would probably be depressed. Maybe even like suicidal thoughts. Like, what are my parents gonna think of? Like,
Well,
you think
20
the worst
boys
of the worst.
have killed themselves over this scam.
What?
Oh, you see?
20 boys, teenage boys, have
gosh.
now killed themselves over this scam.
So that's something like if
I'm going to
something-
send y'all the article.
if something like
That is
that is happening
horrible.
to you, don't be ashamed to share it
With your parents. Trust me,
Share
your
with your
parents
parents.
would
They're-
rather know.
Your parents are there to support you,
Yes.
and they're like your
They're gonna
number
protect
one
you.
best friends.
Yes.
and they want to protect you. So if you are going through something like that, you like be okay opening up and sharing that with someone.
Especially nowadays, we don't live like in the generation that we were growing up, where our parents were kind of blind.
It's not as bad.
Yes,
you
now
know, if it
it's-
happens to you,
Yes.
you're not the first one, and you're not gonna be the
No.
last one. Like
What
this is
I-
something very common.
It's become
you know?
something common, so don't be afraid.
But
to
don't
bring
make it
up.
common.
What I like
You
to
know,
do-
like, it's common, but it's not something that should be common.
As a parent, what I like to do with my daughters is I watch Dateline shows with them when it has to do something about young girls being
Oh, okay.
abused, being
Yes.
kidnapped.
That's so smart.
Friends that are evil and kill them. Like, I watch those types of shows and I make them watch with
Yeah.
me. I read articles like that one, and when you share it with me, I'm going to go home and read it with my daughters
You
tonight.
should.
Yeah.
Because for me, those are super important.
Super.
When there's like all these
Yes.
scam things going out, I share them with my daughter to keep them
Good.
aware. My daughters to keep them aware.
Yeah, it's super sad. And like, honestly, I'm so glad I didn't grow up in the time where there was camera
Oh
phones.
my gosh, me too.
Because I don't know that I would have been
Yeah.
comfortable coming forward to my parents. I would have been
I would have not.
Terrified. Yeah,
I would have come
terrified.
forward.
I would have been so terrified. You know what I mean? So if I have kids, I'm going to make sure that they know, like, you're going to make mistakes, and I want you to come to me when you make mistakes. Don't keep them in. Don't hide them. Like, if you make a mistake, you can tell me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't think I felt, you know,
Yeah.
comfortable going forward.
I
with
have
like
something
that.
with my kids, and I've been doing this since Robert was little. And the stuff that they tell me is hilarious, right?
You told me this.
Yes. So my thing is, I always let them know, hey, today, and it would happen like twice a month. Today's the day. You can tell me anything you want. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to get mad at you. We're just going to fix the issue, right? And I promise I won't get mad. And they would tell me everything that was going on.
Like what?
Like, oh my God, one of them was like, Mom, I have Yu-Gi-Oh card or something like that.
A Yu-Gi-Oh, yeah.
Right? It's Yu-Gi-Oh. He's like,
What is
Yes.
that?
and it's a
Like-
mermaid
like
with
cards,
boobs.
like-
And I'm like, oh my God.
It's a mermaid with boobs.
So he takes it out of his little binder and he had it behind another card. So he was hiding it.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
My 20-year-old recently, if you're watching, just know that I know. Right? Just know that I know.
Does he know that you know?
No, he doesn't know that I know.
But now he knows that
Now
she
he
knows.
knows.
that I
Now
know.
you do.
I'm not going to say what, little one, but you know what I know.
She knows.
So something happened recently that he hasn't
He hasn't told you.
He
He hasn't
hasn't told
fessed
me.
up yet.
I found out, but he hasn't told me, right? Because he's afraid to tell me. Because I think still thinks he's gonna get in trouble. The guy's 20. So the other day I was like, okay, today's the day. Because he said something to me, and I'm like, you never told me that. He's like, yes, I did. I'm like, okay, you know what? Let's reset. Today's the day that you could tell me anything you want.
Anything.
And I won't get mad. And he knows. He's like, Mom, there's nothing. I was like, oh my
didn't
God, this
tell
was. So I told my other son, I was like, he didn't tell me. And he's like, oh, Diego, this was his moment. Because they all know that is their safe space. I always
Yes.
try to give them now. Some stuff have happened and I was doing the safe space that they did not tell me. And I found out later. And I wish they would have told me. So how
Yeah.
much more do we have to give them so they could feel comfortable with us when I gave them all that?
It's very hard because, like, one of my daughters, I think she'll tell me just about anything because she tells me just about everything. But the other one, she's very private. She has more of like that. She doesn't say anything. And so that's just who she is.
Yeah.
Right? So would she tell me if she's being bullied? No. And I was traumatized because she would send me messages. I just come pick me up. Just come pick me up. And I talked to my husband and I'd be like, hon, maybe she's being bullied in school. Something's got to be going on for her not to want to be there. You know?
Yeah.
But nothing.
She doesn't like to share.
So what can we do to
What can
give
parents
them
do
more
to
of a safe
to
space?
make kids feel safe? Because I think in a lot of different cultures, like it's
For us, like the way it's 3 girls, it's my mom, I'm the oldest, and then 2 younger ones. She was just always straight up with us, like, hey, you have private parts, you have, my mom would say when, I don't know, this might be a little too much, but when a man's like pee-pee's head stands up, like they lose this one, So like when they have this one down here going on, they lose this one. Yeah. So
I mean, that's true though.
That is
so
true.
she's
That
like,
is true.
it doesn't matter if it's your grandpa, it doesn't matter if it's your uncle, it doesn't matter if it's your cousin, your dad, like you have to tell me. Like it
Yes.
doesn't matter who it is. I'm not gonna get
not gonna
mad
get
at
in
you.
trouble.
You're not gonna get in trouble. Like if anybody were to, touch your private parts or get involved with you in a way that you feel uncomfortable, you better tell me. And it was just like open dialogue, like, hey,
Good.
like straight up, like that happens to men, that could happen to you. And she would show us, like we would watch all the, like crime
okay, yeah.
crime stuff. So you're aware of it,
Yeah.
and don't be so naive.
Don't be naive. That's the
Don't
huge
be so
thing.
naive. Like don't trust just anybody.
No.
Just because, I mean, and it happened to me when I was a teen. Like I remember I would get into like Latin chat with AOL and just crazy
ASL.
stuff.
Latin
Dude,
chat.
like the amount of men that would hit, I'm, you get old, you're like,
Yeah.
dude, that was so weird. And you're just like
Just
a teen,
recently.
like, hey, I'm like, yeah, I'm 21, and you just go with the flow because you think it's funny or whatever. And then,
And
shit
they
happens.
stalk you and they track you.
And they track you, and yeah,
This whole
this is a dark
stalking,
side
yeah.
of
No.
sexual stuff, right?
It happens at any age. The other day I went to the police station to go file
To tell them you weren't going home.
Yeah, just tell Can you go to the nursing home and tell my mama? No, I went to go drop the charges on something. And the investigator, he was, hopefully he's not watching, right? He helped me. He was asking me a lot of questions. Nice man. 2 nights, straight nights in a row, like at 1 a.m., liking all my pictures on social media.
No.
I don't even have him as a friend.
Even a cop.
The investigator?
Yes. And I'm like,
no.
seriously? Yeah. How gross was that?
Something that it was okay. So remember, there was like a shark at SPI, like a big white shark.
Oh, yeah.
And
Oh,
then they
yes,
had
yes.
I was
tracked.
out there in the water.
Were you? Okay, so then somebody posted, these are the sharks that we should all be watching.
Uh-huh.
And it was a map of McAllen filled with red dots, yellow dots.
Yes.
And it was all the child abuse. that
The
happens-
registered sex
registered
offenders. Yeah.
And man, is there a lot.
A lot.
My neighbor,
Like,
well, behind me,
Crazy,
there's
a
one.
lot of people.
Yeah.
And it's like child abuse. Like most of them are child abuse. 3-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 80-year-olds. It's so creepy to talk about it because fuck, like that's
hard.
There's
like
so
you
much.
ruin a person's life by doing that. Like
Yes.
There's enough adults out there to want to sleep around.
no,
Just-
like
And for $20, you go downtown and get it, right?
no, but like why?
what do you
why
mean?
Even like
The
that's
prostitute.
just
Oh.
weird. That's something that I've always like. It's always triggered me and tripped me out. Like, what is it about children? Like, what the fuck? You know?
I don't fucking get it.
Pedophilia. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it. Like, what is it about a child that you are sexually attracted to?
There's yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Or-
Like, is it a power thing?
or
like,
even so much so that these young boys would kill themselves because
They're
you're
gonna-
asking them to show a private part and then you're going to traumatize them.
yeah. Well, the young boys did send photos, and then these scammers are like, if you don't pay me this much money, I'm gonna release it to everybody you know.
That's what I mean. Like
Yeah.
that's mentally those people are mentally like
That you would
deranged.
Yeah.
That you would like torment somebody like that. You know what I mean? Like torment somebody and push them to the edge like that. It's crazy.
That's sad.
It's very sad.
People come out and talk about it and share.
Yeah.
The more people that share experiences about their trauma, about their sexual trauma, if they were young or they need to come out and admit it, you save so many people after you.
Yes.
Yeah,
You
and
really
if
do.
you are going through some sort of trauma, it's super important that you find a therapist,
Yes.
Yeah.
someone that you can confine on and talk to and release that from your body because
Right. Don't keep it
man,
in.
does that cause a lot of like trauma and issues in your life? Like if you don't release those things and just talk about it, like be open into talking about it because it's gonna affect your body later on.
It does.
Yeah, or your
I've-
life.
I've noticed
your
a difference with me.
relationships.
Your
you know,
relationships,
your relationships.
the way you interact.
The way you love
interact,
yourself,
the
like-
way you love yourself, the way you love
Yes.
others, the connection with yourself, with others, with everything around you. Like something so traumatizing can really affect you for the rest of your life if you don't deal with it and
I agree.
process it as you should.
You gotta
Releasing my
deal
trauma
with,
was
we
the
have
best
to
thing.
deal with things.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know what? I feel like it's even harder for men to come forward
Oh,
and say
yes.
that they've been abused in
There's a
some
lot
way
of
because
taboo
there's a
around
lot of
it.
shame.
A lot of
you know what I mean?
shame.
A lot more shame. I mean, it's shame in general, right?
Yeah.
For women and men, but I feel like men in particular, like there's so much more shame surrounding it that they just hold it in, hold it in, and then they snap. And then they might become an abuser.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a horrible cycle.
Yeah.
So we have to like create safe
Heal.
spaces for
Heal the cycle because like your ancestors, like it.
yeah.
A lot of that might have
ancestral
happened.
trauma and even at church. You know what I mean? There's been I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Spotlight.
I don't think so.
It's y'all should watch it. It's such a great movie, but they really took a deep dive into all of the sexual abuse that happens within the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I think that's another episode, right? Because we were supposed to
Yeah.
dig deep on that, but this is
should.
another subject that is
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
broad.
we just went from I don't know all these different places,
Yeah.
right?
I know, because
But
there's just so much to cover. But at church, at school, there was a
Home.
recent article about a bus driver sexually
Doctors.
abusing kids.
Doctors.
Doctors. I mean,
grandpas.
like there's just so many.
Don't allow their title to intimidate you.
Right. Exactly.
Oh yeah, that's another thing.
reach out.
Reach
We're here
out.
for you.
Because they say, oh, he's my priest. He's the priest. Your parents love him.
Yeah.
Right.
So
yeah.
you're not
I mean, they
gonna say-
worship him basically.
Yes.
So you're not going to say anything.
You're not going to say anything.
They abuse that trust that's placed in them and the power that's placed in them. And of course, I'm a big believer in you are innocent until proven guilty. So I'm not saying that any recent allegations are true, but there have been so many proven cases of
Yes.
sexual abuse in church, at school, at home. So
Coaches, look at the
coaches.
What was it that Notre Dame? Was it Notre Dame? Maybe I'm saying the wrong one. But that the coach that was like abusing all of his
players,
all the young girls, the females that
there's
were
another the ones from the swimming team too.
yes,
right?
the big
Really?
huge
the gymnastic, the
Yes.
Olympics
The
coach.
Olympics, not
All
Notre
of
Dame.
those
so sorry.
famous gymnasts came forward
Yeah.
and said, "This guy has been abusing us since we were little girls."
That's
and like
horrible.
it's absolutely
Imagine having
horrible.
to like see this man, train with this man,
Oh,
like
I know.
and then your parents just like pushing you.
And
Yeah.
they adore him and do whatever he
and
says.
then, like, do whatever he says. Ah!
I
It
just
is
No, that's-
awful.
you just sent me that article that Reverend from Dallas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
Also,
well.
teachers. It's happening a lot here.
Well, and I'm not gonna go too much into it, but
Yeah.
when I was recently, I found out that some of my friends from junior high were having an affair with one of the teachers
in junior high.
in junior high.
when
oh
you
my
were in junior
gosh.
high.
Yes.
That's so scary.
No way.
Oh, that's so
And
scary.
3 of them we were barbecuing, talking about it, and then they start discussing it among themselves, and we're just like, to them it was cool because it was the teacher.
Yeah.
Oh,
She was
my.
hot. She was this.
Oh, it was
Oh,
a
it
girl.
was a female
Oh, a
teacher.
female. Yes.
Oh, I'm telling
Wow.
you, it's crazy how
Yes,
many
female.
females
It does-
still, like are down for
yes.
them.
Females are yes.
They're as guilty
Protect your sons and your
Protect
daughters.
your
Yes.
sons. Yeah.
because they think
That's
it's
horrible.
cool. And then I was just like stuck on stupid. Of course, all
Wow.
of the girls, we had so many questions.
yeah. So
Yeah.
all of these like it sounds like storylines, right? Like popular teen boy with the hot teacher, you know?
Yeah.
All of those things like where are we getting these ideas from, right? Like to me it all goes back to what you see in movies, right? There's a lot of storylines that go that way where like the young boy bangs, you know, the teacher or, you know, vice versa. The Mean Girls, you know, the 2 Asian girls were with the coach. I don't know if you guys saw,
Oh,
you
that's
know?
right.
So
Yeah.
they try to make it like it's common, you know, and it shouldn't
It's
be
not
common.
common.
not
But I
common.
think that's where the ideas come from. Also, incest and all of that, you know. I blame it on pornography. Like if you go to pornography, not that I go pornography, but I've seen it, you know.
Yeah.
Where it's like incest stuff, like stepmom with like stepson, or you know what I mean? Like, so I'm like, where
Yeah.
the fuck do these people even like
Think of
How?
these.
you know,
Yeah.
like who's putting these things in men's mind or women's head, you know?
Yeah.
It's so weird. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's horrible.
I was so
and-
sheltered when I was growing up. So I lived in a different, I still live sheltered, right? I don't see all the news and I'm
Yeah.
over here hearing about all this new stuff. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And I still feel like I hear a lot and I teach my daughters, but if we continue to stay sheltered and you don't unshelter them, then I think that's when it happens so much more.
Right.
Because they don't know. They trust anybody.
They trust it. Yeah.
Trust everybody.
Yes, I
It's
agree.
horrible. There are steps and actions that can be taken. You're not alone. There's plenty of people who have been through the same and they want to help you. If you're seeing this, and let this be your sign to, you know, step up, stand up for yourself, report it to the police, you know, take steps to protect yourself. So I know it's a difficult topic to talk about, but this is what we're here for. What you don't see, the podcast, you know what I mean? What you don't talk about, what you don't see. We're here to break those, you know, stigmas. So please take care of yourself. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know if you have any questions, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.